So thank you guys so much for sharing this. This is the first time this has been shown to the public, so it's really exciting. The very first thing I wanted to ask you guys, and first I'm going to speak for we're going to have a conversation for about 15 minutes, and then I'd love to open it up to you guys for any questions that you might have about the show and its inspiration for these guys.
No, you're not allowed to leave. Where are you going? Sit back down right now. No, seriously, do you have to be somewhere? Do you have to pee? I'm just kidding. You can go. I'm just kidding. I did. Almost. I don't want to be. I'm not mean.
It's very Quinn of you. So I just wanted to bring up the fact that you guys saw that this is based on the short film called Sequin Rays, which actually premiered here at South by. So my first question was for Sarah, who debuted this at South by and took this all the way through to a television series. And I wanted to know kind of how that happened. How was that trajectory? And how does it feel to be back here at South by with a TV show?
I was like, I'm gonna barf. It's really fun. It's fun. It feels full circle. When I made the short, I was really interested in turning it into a series. And I think like a lot of indie filmmakers, we're obsessed with like television now because we're in a huge golden age of television, and it's a great place to be. And I sort of always thought that it had a really good episodic structure because of the show within the show, and there was a lot of potential for that. But then Marty Noxon came on as my co-creator, and then we actually made a TV show, which was really good. It went from wanting to make a TV show to making a TV show. So that was great. And it actually, I sold it to Nina Lederman at Lifetime before we came to South by. So by the time it premiered here, we knew we were going to make a show. Yeah.
That's awesome. So I guess I was going to ask my next question to Marty, which is, what was your aha moment when you saw the short and you were like, oh my God, this needs to be scripted?
Hello? Okay. It's not nearly loud enough for my taste. I know. Nina, who is the head of one of the heads of the world, so Lifetime, had asked me to see the short, and I kept saying, just send the DVD to my house. And she kept saying, no, I want you to come and see it, and I want to talk to you about it. And so I took my plague, because I'd just come back from India, and I had the plague, but Nina wouldn't leave me alone, and myself to her office, and we watched with Jen Breslow, and, yay, Jen Breslow. What Sarah did was sort of undeniable. We ended up using sort of the meat of that short in the scene where, toward the end, where Shiri talks to the contestant who just got booted, and we see that she's filmed the whole thing. And that was the short. It was seeing that manipulation between contestant and producer. The contestant kind of knows what time it is, and yet she still finds a way to humiliate her. And I thought, wow, what a great summary of a lot of reality television. It's sort of the bully culture, and what it fosters in the way we view stuff. And in this instance, particularly the way we view women, and the way the women in some of these reality dating shows are treated sort of like chattel. It's like, and the dismissal of them is so cruel. And it was all summed up, and beautifully so, in the short. And I thought, wow, of all the things that I would like to write about TV, this would be number one. So Sarah and I met, and that's how that happened.
You just mentioned something that I'd love to talk about, which is the kind of bully culture that you see in this series, and that we are all familiar with on reality television. You guys have clearly opened yourself up to the discussion of feminism by actually putting Rachel's character in a shirt that says, "This is what a feminist looks like."
That's on her chest.
On her chest.
Well, that was from the short, and we from the very beginning, we're like, we want to keep that. I mean, that's obviously, we get a little theming on that one, don't we?
We do a little bit of dig into that one just a little bit, yeah. We like that one. But it's also, I think that her conflict is such a big part of the story for us, and it's an interesting show because it's, it's ripping back the curtain a little bit on reality TV, but it's also really important to us. Like, her struggle about her morality and who she is also really central. So We put it on our chest.
I mean, just in the beginning, we already see 3 really dynamic, compelling women who are very, very strong. And so, like, I was thinking that this definitely passes the Bechdel test in an amazing way.
Did you say the vagina test?
The Bechdel.
Oh,
Yes.
oh,
They're
sorry.
kind of the same.
I was like, that's a good test to pass as well. Like, you know.
Whatever.
I'm sorry.
Actually, I was wondering, Constance, do you think that Quinn is a feminist?
Yes. I had to think about it. Yes, absolutely. Aren't all women feminists? You know, Quinn is surviving in a world where when you got to get something done, you just have to do it, no matter who's in your way. And, you know, I like to say that she just has an unfiltered honesty that gets the job done. So there's no harm in that. You know, I might not be very nice about the way I do it, but I mean, come on, I put together a really good show, so clearly it works.
True. As obviously, Lifetime is a television show or a television network that is aimed at women, but they have not, you know, they're still pretty new with scripted series. There's some stuff coming out that sounds really great. But what did they tell you? How did they attract you to and invite you to explore the possibilities on that network in particular?
Well, I mean, I think it was made very clear that they were looking to take risks, that they wanted to go dark, even darker than we thought, that they wanted to be edgy. And I have to say that there's been an undeniable amount of support from the network for this show and wanting it to sort of live up to its potential, which is really an incredible thing when you're making something.
Freddie, you're up here with like a ton of women. So I was wondering if, do you think that we are supposed to like Adam?
I'd say, I don't know if I should say for the rest of the show. I'd say no, not really. Maybe.
Oh, come on.
He's
so
I think
cute.
you're supposed to be on the fence for the most of the way through. He has some redeeming moments, I think, and then he has some other moments that bring him right back down again. So, yeah, I mean, that's what I love about the show is that it kind of shows that everyone has some dark sides and some positive sides, I guess. So I'm on the fence.
We all love Adam.
Who doesn't love Adam? Yeah, I'm on the fence with that one.
Right. I don't know if you guys know this, but I was hoping, Sarah, you can talk to this a little bit. But this comes from specifically, you know, you have worked in production before, and I was wondering if this is what it's really like on a television show, specific reality or otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, we've all worked in production, so we sort of, there are a lot of tropes to like being behind the scenes on a set that are just sort of part of any show. And like when Marty and I really sat down to write this show, it was whiteboards and brainstorming and blue skying just like any other show. So it's definitely not any kind of like reporting on what happens behind the scenes. And I think just all of our experiences in the industry helped make that world feel real. But that it's more like the backdrop for our characters.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing that we both have, I mean, because I've never worked on anything but scripted drama, but I do think the one thing that is great about the timing of this now is that there's been a history long enough of these shows, and particularly shows where there's contestants who aren't there because they know how to cook or sew, or, you know, they're there because they're beautiful, and because they're beautiful, usually, and crazy. Sometimes crazy helps. You know, I think that there's a language for a lot of these shows, and but a lot of people really don't know the specifics, and that's one of the things that was so exciting to get to do. And I mean, sure, you were actually on a reality show, so you.
I actually did a season of Project Greenlight, the Shia LaBeouf year. And I was saying that, you know, it was really intimidating to be in that environment because whenever I'd have a question for a director, I'd walk over and I'd be surrounded by, you know, 5 or 6 cameras. And it puts you in an environment where you feel completely unsure and you're second guessing yourself all day long. And it makes you act unnatural.
So that was the last time I ever did it. But yeah, I think it makes you kind of crazy.
I did want to point out too, Sarah, when we spoke earlier, you were saying that you didn't want to have any mockery or have it feel like an expose. And it doesn't really feel like an expose of reality in as much as it does an expose on television, or like, you know, all of the terminology. I mean, do you guys feel like that was pretty honest? Have people who, all of you have worked on television.
I was a little terrified of my character. To be honest, I think every day I would call Sarah, or I would text her, or I would email her, and I would say, "Am I too mean? I don't know what's happening. Everyone's gonna hate me." And then I kind of came to love her because it was, you know, again, I think it just goes back to what I was saying before, that, you know, every character is always exaggerated for television, but I can tell you that there are already people that have come up to me and said, "Oh my God, I know exactly who you're portraying." And they've given me names, and I've said, "Oh my God, that is terrifying, and I don't think I want to know that." And, you know, I mean, it's amazing. Sometimes reality is crazier than fiction. Does that make sense? I had to question myself, but I don't know. So I would say I definitely struggled a lot with the character, but then came to realize that she serves a purpose, and I think it's a purpose that I hope all of you, as you come to watch the season, will learn that all of us on the show, everybody, the contestants, all the other producers on the show, everybody is not okay. So it made me feel better, I guess. Yeah, right? Yeah. Oh, you have a, sorry.
No, that's a good way of putting it. Everybody is extremely not okay. That should be the new title. It should be like, not UnREAL, nah, not okay. Not okay. That's a statement too. Right. Just not okay.
Not okay. Shiri, I was wondering if you could tell me a little bit about the dress that you were wearing today.
This is important.
I'm addicted to Project Runway, you guys, and it's unhealthy, but I'm admitting I have a problem. And my dresser on set taught me how to repurpose clothes, and so when the show wrapped, I started taking sewing lessons at Mood, and this is the first dress I've ever made.
Woohoo!
My very last question, and then I'd love for you guys to come and ask these guys some of your own questions, is that, you know, when Sarah and I were talking earlier, we were talking a little bit about the fact that you have all of these very strong characters who identify as feminists amidst this princess story, and like the idea that, you know, that Rachel is doing what she needs to do kind of to survive, and that career has come first, and like this like weird want/need for like women to both assert their independence but also find their own princess story. Is that something that you guys have like thought about, like specifically in that setting, which is literally the search for a prince, like you're a prince and on a white horse, shirtless, saying, "I'm going to find my wife tonight."
Yeah. I feel like absolutely. Yeah. It's something Marty and I have talked about a lot and thought about a lot. That just like, you know, it's like there's a thing about getting like hypnotized by diamonds and ponies and dresses, and like it's just that even the strongest among us like all fall prey to that stuff, because I think we all want to be loved, and we're fed those fairy tales from a very young age. And I think that, you know, we explore a lot of sides of it. But yeah, it's very central.
Anybody else have any thoughts about kind of that complexity?
About what?
That kind of complexity of like the independent woman that is being shown in Quinn and Rachel, but also like the search for the princess fantasy.
Yeah. In the environment she's in, she knows it's kind of silly, but like out of not having sleep and starting to fall into the story herself, she's constantly conflicted about it. And I think a lot of her struggle is that she thinks that this princess finding the guy is going to get her out of this dark world that she's in. And so that's a real struggle that we explore during the entire season.
And everybody explores it, not just the contestants on the show, which is, again, I think what we're all trying to say is a lot of the show is about the morality and what we are all willing to do in whatever career we have, what we're all willing to do to get what we want. And some just cross that line a lot.
Great. I would love to hear from anybody in the audience if they have any questions for the producer.
Oh, come on. I know you guys
wanna
have a
run to
question.
Yeah. There we go.
Oh.
Hi, guys. Hi. You guys are fantastic. It was a great show.
Thank you.
So I had a question. I guess this is for everyone. When you're taking on your character, what's some of the research that you did, I guess?
I got together with some of the owners of a prominent reality production company called Magical Elves, and I sat down with them and asked them, what their day was like. A lot of the terminology that we use on the show, like Frankensteining footage that they used. It was interesting when I asked them if they felt guilty about what they were doing to the contestants. It felt as if I was the first person that had ever asked them that, which kind of gave me, I felt like, a lot more freedom when I was playing Rachel, because even though she's dealing with the guilt, I think she becomes aware that other people don't feel this. And so it was really interesting to hear it from them.
I did no research whatsoever. I mean, I'm sure I did a little bit, but it's because, yeah, I'm being honest. I'm just being honest.
Freddie?
I guess
Out with 18 girls?
I went out with 18 girls just at the same time. No, I am. Actually, the lovely Breeder gave me a good suggestion where I watched a documentary. I can't remember the name of it now, but it was about kids whose parents are redonkulously rich billionaires, and how that affects their lives, and that sort of no boundaries, no rules, and essentially a loss of identity. Like, people would always associate them through their parents, and that sort of search for individualism. So that was my sort of research, I guess, but that was about it.
You watched the movie. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Hey, so this is more just like a comment. I actually just left this world being Rachel, and you guys got it so spot on. Like,
Oh, amazing.
perfect. I mean, I left before the breakdown, but it was awesome. Like,
Yay!
great job.
Amazing.
I said you made it out.
Congratulations. Do you want to? She was waiting.
Oh, okay. So my friend over here has lost her voice, so I'll ask a question on her behalf. Did you ever have concerns that you would end up exploiting the same tropes and cliches that make reality TV addictive while making the show?
We walk that line very, very carefully. It's kind of like a razor's edge on this show. I think that it's a funny thing, like all of those, the ponies and the dresses and the glitter and all that stuff is really, really fun. But our endeavor is always to just humanize both sides of the camera. So to make sure that we're having equal compassion and fairness for the contestants as we are for the producers, I think.
Yeah, no, I mean, I didn't worry about it that much, to be perfectly honest, because I felt like there's such a divide between, you said this morning, we would call them the mole people, the people who live in the dark, now Kimmy Schmidt's put a whole different spin on that, a mole woman. Specifically, she's a mole woman. We were talking about mole people. And then, the creatures, the swans, the contestants, these beautiful, and the difference between the reality that they showed where, like a piece of a cherry blossom tree would be on a K-stand. Every time we pull out, the reality of those cliches is so false. And I feel like as soon as Constance's character is like, that's a black girl. She has to get back. She can't be in that row because, a winner would never be. I felt like, okay, we've pretty much done away with the cliches of romance when we get a character like yours and Shiri's, commenting on the action as much as we do. So.
Okay. Hello, good afternoon. My name is Viviana. Congratulations on a great show. Love the episode. You have fans in Pittsburgh. We'll be watching. I had a question for the creators of the show, if you can share this. So, naturally, this makes sense for a series because you are filming a series within the series, but what happens when the show wraps, right? So if you can share this, what longevity do you see with the story and these characters? Would they start a new series, or would we be seeing the lead work as a producer on another show? Where do you see that going?
I think sort of like regular regular shows like this. There's just a new season. We're gonna have. Freddie is just a one-season, one-season wonder. The really interesting thing about this show is that we can have the format of everlasting change, or it can be everlasting all alligators. I'm going back to the alligator, or it could be everlasting. Where two of the women are, courted by a house full of men, or who knows. But every season, the producers of Everlasting, the cast and crew, the crew stays the same. The cast is always rotating, so it'll be fun. We could go forever, right, Nina? Forever. Forever and ever.
Thank you very much.
We have time for about 2 more questions. There you go.
Hi, it was a great show. I was just wondering if you guys are hoping to see like sort of a culture change, how people view reality television and feminism and stuff like that due to the show, and like what kind of effect you're hoping it's going to have.
Yes. The answer is yes.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, when I signed on for the show, I was more interested in the character sort of struggling with whether or not she was making right choices for her life, and struggling with what she's good at versus how it makes her feel. So in terms of exposing reality TV, that's never really been my priority, or I'm not really that interested in it. I'm a fan of reality television. But if people can watch TV and look at it differently, I think that's an okay side effect.
I mean, it would be amazing if people just watched the show and actually it affected them. That would be fantastic.
Thank you.
And it's our last question, guys.
Hi. When can I watch more episodes?
Yeah.
That's about June 1st. June 1st.
Yeah, we're Monday nights
on Lifetime.
And it gets buck wild.
It gets crazy. This was nothing.
Yeah, you guys, this
nothing.
one was, by the way, like the Disneyland of the episodes. It gets a little crazy.
Yeah, I have to say that, they told us, go for it. Like in terms of darkness, in terms of where you push the show. So when we were breaking the season, we were like, we're gonna go for it. We'll chaos will reign, And as we were pitching this season, I kept waiting for somebody to just go, well, we can't, and it never happened. And actually, even the stuff we thought wouldn't make it to air did not get cut out of the season. So yeah, it's a pretty good ride, I think. I think people will not be bored. That we can promise.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you guys so much. Thank you.